Cancer has the same, anything. Every illness is a stage from zero, the smallest things, the irritating things, the problems with your parents. And even the parents behave the same way exactly to produce the same problems everybody has.
Okay, we're ready to start.
All right.
So if you want to give like a little
Just give me the. Would you like to start it? Yeah, I think it would be good. I need that to hit somebody. I always need it.
It looks like another object when it's in the camera.
Uh-oh. Oh, well, I have to use my fists. All right.
Why?
So, I'm just joking. I'm sorry. It's not so funny.
You ready?
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. This is our Sunday session, and I'm Chuck Williams, and this is Roy Masters, and I was asked to make an introduction, and I really don't know what to introduce other than ourselves and our discussion. And I have to put up with his insults all the time, which is magic. No one can put up with insults. They can fake it. He hits the core all the time, and you get to see the dust fly inside of yourself. I've known hundreds and hundreds of people who say, I'm a Roy follower, but I can't stand to be around him. And it's because he says some little thing, and it gets them upset, and they don't want to see the upset, and they eventually can't get near him because they don't want to see what he stirs up in them. I wanted to see it, and I want to see it every day. And I welcome the insults because I know it's coming from a simple heart that's just doing what he's doing, and it lets me see what's buried inside of me. So anyway, I'm supposed to introduce this. We're going to have a little discussion, and people in the audience can come and sit where I am if they want to talk with Roy in a way that there's something magical about being able to be completely honest and forget about the cameras and the world because it's your life. You only have one life, and you're meant to learn something here. And if you're willing to take the risks to learn what you need to learn, you will grow. And that's what these talks are about, helping you and helping the world see how this works. It's the magic of exposing yourself, but not in a theatrical way. It's just inside yourself, opening your soul and see what comes out. And there's a magic to that. It's a magic that Christ knew about and worked on. And he gave us a gift to follow this way. And it's up to each one of us to take the initiative and to go into the unknown and go in this place. So, Roy, what have you got?
I just want to say to the audience, I've known you 50 years.
Yes.
And you've come a long way from horror, so to speak. And so with Wendy, that you saw just a few minutes ago, the audience saw her. But what question would you like to start with? What do you think is valuable? I always forget what I'm saying. It's always something new. You want to start with the beginning or not?
I want to start where we left off last week, believe it or not.
I forget what that is.
Well,
I'm absolutely
this is what sticks in my memory, and it's really not where you and I left off, but there's something you said near the end of the talk that I found fascinating, and that was your description of what the meditation is meant to be for each person. Now, you can't remember what you said.
No.
But there may be something you could add, maybe just how you came across the bits and pieces of it that began to make sense, because I suspect you meditated all your life and didn't know it. You were in that state. And your job has been to find some way to take us in our hypnotized state and have us latch onto something that starts out as a form of hypnosis, but eventually leads us, if we're willing to go there, to the place where meditation is meant to bring you, which is an opening, listening, vulnerable place.
It has to do with two forces. There's evil, the evil of the world, and then there's the opposite, that which is we with which we are born. We are born with intuition. We are literally born, the same as Adam. We have the same ability to experience God or the devil, one of the two. But the whole human race needs redemption from that. And we need to talk about that just a little bit more. But I just wanted to hear a little bit more, something more to the point, which is mysterious to you. A little bit. Can you just
Well,
help me with that?
start with a story.
Please.
Because I've known you for many years. So
Yes.
when I first found Roy, I was 18, and his meditation was on a long playing record, an LP, and you put it on your record player at 33 1/3, and you play this 20, 25-minute meditation thing where he talks you through it, and you put your hand at your side, and you focus on finger and see if you... And I thought the whole point of it was to get your hand to come up to your forehead.
Right.
So that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And I slowly worked at it and concentrated harder and harder. And it, at times my hand did come up to my forehead, but really, that was all hypnotic.
That produced a hypnotic state.
Produces a hypnotic state. I didn't know that, but at some point,
Or
something
manifested.
changed in me
Yeah.
because I saw I'm trying too hard.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong.
That's very good information.
And I was trying to make it happen. So what I did is I stopped trying.
Yes.
And I would sit there, and guess what? He would go on with his monologue, and 2 seconds in, my mind is racing on thoughts of the day and what I did yesterday and what I'm going to do tomorrow. And then I would come back to reality and realize, oh, I'm supposed to be concentrating on my hand. And what I noticed after a number of weeks of this was, I'm out of control. My mind throws an idea up, and I go for it. And then I realized 5 minutes in that I'm caught in my thoughts.
Correct.
And I saw that. And so these little things happened. I didn't know where I was. I was on a journey.
But how did you find out that was so?
That's the question.
Yes.
Something saw it in me.
Something arrived and started saying, hey, stop that.
Yeah. This is going nowhere. I
That's
realized.
right.
And then I felt my helplessness in that I couldn't do this simple process, which I thought might be good
But
for
you're
me.
very much of an intellectual.
Intellectual. Thought
I
guy.
mean, really. You got some degrees?
I never got the degrees.
I
I always went and I quit at
you
the last
veered away.
minute before I got them.
You veered away, yes.
But I became an intellectual, but when I started out, it's not about me, but when I started out in school, I was the worst kid in the class. Couldn't read.
Same
when
here.
I couldn't read when I was in the 5th grade. I could read, but I was read so slowly that when we took the test, I would still be reading the paragraph and everybody's answered the questions and the test is over. And I'd have nothing answered, so they think I couldn't read. I was just reading slow. What I realized later was that if I didn't understand something, I couldn't learn it.
Exactly.
But they tricked me into learning what I didn't understand.
And there's your problem.
That was the problem. But
And
I
you had
saw
tremendous
through that.
You became very good at everything.
Yeah.
Correct?
Right,
Brilliant.
right.
But that brilliance wasn't pure.
But at some point, something happened to me. I was winning the awards, and everybody praised me, and there was a little something in my head that said, this is not you. You're becoming somebody that's not you. I don't know where that came from, but it struck me, and I immediately took action to stop all this stuff they think I should do. I just said, I'm not going to do
Stop
that.
learning.
Stop learning. I tried to do this, and that didn't work. Everything I was trying that they said was good wasn't working. And 6 months later, guess who I heard on the radio?
Yeah.
You. And I was a guy
That's
who
50
was...
years ago.
50 years ago. I was a guy who was hungering for some meaning, because I'm finding out that what everyone says is the good thing wasn't the good thing for me. It just didn't click. So I wanted to find meaning. And everything I tried didn't work. When I began following what you were suggesting, it didn't necessarily work, but I just kept doing it. And I kept making decisions that closed off that and that. I realized my...
Like I see that
Yeah.
no more. I
That's,
see that
that's phony.
no more.
I can't do that. No, that's no good. And then life takes over. I got drafted, and
Light takes over. Another light coming through you, through your eyes, and the energy coming through some other place and conflicting with evil, the craziness of the love of the world.
the lie of the world. Yes.
The lie of the world.
Craziness.
Yeah.
And it did it, but I didn't know that. I thought I was confused and rudderless.
Well, you were.
In a way I was, but it was good because
No.
the catastrophe was instead of going to college, I was drafted. But the miracle is that in my 2 years in the Army, I was afloat with no support system, and I had to confront the craziness of the world. Every time I was innocent about it, someone in the crowd stepped forward and protected me from the craziness. It wasn't me fighting it. I was like, oh gosh. And the colonel is after me, and the captain is after me, and the sergeant is after me. And some guy out of the blue, either outranking them or even less than them, undermines everything they do to destroy me. And I didn't do anything. I just showed up.
Same to me.
Yeah.
And so, how does it present a question?
How do we find ourselves, how can we find our way back to this helpless place where we can let God work in our
The
lives?
answer is you do nothing.
How do we do
And
nothing?
you do nothing right.
I know. My question and I'm asking this for everyone else, how do we do nothing right? You know, there's not a set answer, but that's what all of our questions should be. How do we do nothing?
Is to realize we do nothing, that we are wrong. Everything we do is wrong. Everything.
But
And because of the
there's one difference.
intellectual, even broken people are intellectual.
Yeah.
They struggle to try to save themselves. Now, the interesting thing here that Chuck is bringing forward is desperately trying to fix ourselves. The anxieties, the fears, the endless loops of negative thoughts, the appeasing, the bullying, everything that you do in your life, when you see it's wrong, you either make an excuse and you go on and you get worse. And then you try to fix yourself when you get worse, and the more you try to fix yourself, the worse you become. And that is the same for everybody on earth. And so we have to start with a beginning for our audience. And if there's any people in this audience that has a problem as I come to the point, and there's a lady and gentleman and a young man who's come from a long way away, and I invite them whenever they're ready to see that I am on a point which is relevant to them. I'd be happy for you to change places with them, and we now have a nice talk. And when he talks about whatever it is, it's exactly the same as someone in the audience or thousands of people listening, exactly to the nth degree. Now, I like to start a little bit in a very simple way where I have discussed things before. I can remember being born, and I have never mentioned this to you, I don't think. I mentioned it to Wendy, and she suggested that it'd be very good to discuss it because it shows that I'm a different person and I am not the same as anybody else, except, excuse the expression, Jesus Christ himself. Because when he came into the world with a perfect mother. That was important because most of the problems come from mothers with the failing of the father. The failing of the father, because every woman is an Eve. that needs to have the life, the dark side loved out of them rather than embracing the dark side by looking for her love. Wherever you look, wherever a man looks to find meaning, his emptiness is something with every man that needs a woman to save him. That is the basis of it, to give him fulfilled of what we think of as love. Don't you think of a woman loving you as love? No, it's screwing you. Excuse the expression. She doesn't know she's screwing you. Expression. I'm sorry to say, but it's the proper word. See, and so when a woman, what we are experiencing in life is generations and generations of exactly the same thing with variations. And the variations are exactly the same as other variations. And so the whole human race, every race and color and creed, every race and color and creed, including ISIS, which is the worst of them all, is a variation of how worse you are and how more difficult it is to help and save. You can't save ISIS. Every now and then you get one who has a conscience and runs away. See, but so let me explain my relationship with my Creator in the time that I was in my mother's womb, or not really sure of what I'm about to say. Maybe when I was 6 months or a year old, something says to me, what is life about? That's all it came. It may have been a little bit more sophisticated, but it's such a long time ago that it's taken me all these years to remember that it happened, if you see what I mean. Mm-hmm. But it was the basis of Him, our Creator. He spoke to me in a language which sounds like English if I wanted to translate it, which I did. I translated it some years later, remembering that moment, but not ever saying anything about it. And that's what it said. And I was happy with that thought. And years went by, and, well, I'll just come up to my father, because it's a very interesting thing with my father, which makes a beautiful point. And then I will begin traveling, making a few points, how everything begins and gets worse, and the beginning of all our suffering. The beginning of all of our suffering is transferred from one generation to the other in every race, color, and creed. And in America, you can see that there's two kinds of people with everybody, every race and color and creed juxtaposed against the other, not commercial, but how can I say?
Cultures? Other cultures? Cultures?
Yes, the culture, but there's the left and the right.
Yeah.
See? And I have a little bad memory when I speak. You'll have to excuse me, because I'm getting old. I'm nearly 90. And so I shouldn't be able to talk at all, really. But every race and color and creed, on the left, Democrats. I don't mean to be rude or to be political. But then they got the people on the right. And every race and color and creed are able to be manipulated in exactly the same way. And the reason why we have war and suffering and civil war and all the kinds of misery on this earth is, it begins with one thing: our lack of searching for the purpose of existence. So I had a life with a father And my father was a beautiful man, but he was so beautiful. His presence, just like you sitting there, his presence was sufficient to give me, to guide me, to be a representative of what I should be. I had a mother who loved my father, but she was weak, but she was sweet. And when my father died, I had pain. When my mother died, I didn't. And even they dropped her off, when she dropped her off in the...
When they were taking her out of the room.
Yes, and take her out of the room, she dropped her on the floor. And still, I didn't get upset. But she's a good woman. I said to myself, why is that? I've never solved the problem. But with my father, which is the more important person in the family, ladies, do not be disturbed when I say the man is the most important, because Adam is most important to Eve, and he failed her. See? A man born of woman is, or anyone, man or woman, born of woman, is, the man born of woman is subject to the woman. In other words, everything's reversed. When God said to Adam, from this day you shall leave your mother and father and join and become part of your woman.
Become one with the woman.
Become one with the woman. Now that is, excuse the expression, bass backwards. It's the opposite. So the system in the world is Eve. Every Eve born needs to have the love the hell out of them, not embracing the hell in them and drawing the dark side up through both of them so they kill each other. Correct?
Yes.
That's what's happening to you. And so what kind of man we have today is a man that is subject to the woman one way or another, and through the failing of the father. And through the failing of the father, there's hatred towards him, the father, by the wife. See?
Contempt.
Contempt for his weakness. At first, she feels elated by him loving her and marrying her, but he's not equipped to marrying her because he looks for the love of the woman when the woman really needs to in other words, to love the woman is to call upon her and what is still behind her from the very beginning. And until we understand that women need to have the love, a man to love the hell out of her, there'll be no possible time where you can solve your problem. Everybody has the same problem. The whole of the human race, even ISIS. ISIS, let me just make a point, and if you don't mind, I'm going on a different point than I expected to speak to you about, but I think it's just coming to me. ISIS uses a woman. You know how hungry that men are, need love, right? But they don't know what love is. They do not know what love is. The only thing they know is that they're falling in love. But what they're really doing is falling from what love is all about. And then the more he loves, the more he becomes addicted to the woman who loves him.
For a man, love is somebody who makes him feel comfortable what he is.
The lady.
God's love is something that makes you feel uncomfortable for what you are.
That's correct.
And men don't like that. But
The true love.
If a man appreciates the presence of the Father in his chest, and he's feeling, you're feeling weak in the Father's presence, the consciousness that's in you, his consciousness, not yours, makes you feel less. And if you have a hunger for that feeling, what happens is a woman senses that in you, and a good woman will appreciate your, I don't know how to say this, the presence of the Father.
You're on the right track.
The presence of the Father in you, which you feel as
The presence of the Heavenly Father.
Heavenly Father in you,
Yeah.
it humbles you, and you're being, in a sense, you're not making yourself, it's just happening. You're enduring it. You're feeling like nothing. A good woman will sense something about that.
A bad one, too.
Because the Father's presence is making you feel less, but it's coming through you. She feels that presence, and she yearns for that if she's good. And when she comes to you for comfort, you don't give her comfort. You go back in that place and let the Father come through you, and you don't feel powerful. You feel weak.
Can I make
Sure.
just that, just a little bit? I'm so used to saying it. I can take some of those words, but you got it right.
I'm only talking from what I've learned,
yes.
not from what you said.
I understand that, but let me just make that just a little bit more clear. In other words, Eve, a woman, is still Eve. She may not know this, and we won't talk about her childhood, except nearly every child that comes into the world inherits the culture that you come born into, because the parents have been born into the culture. See, in other words, as a baby, you cannot fight the culture and the failure of your fathers and your mother to overcome the culture herself. So it's going to be, for the whole human race, ever since paradise was lost, the same old thing. Man born of woman and woman born of woman. A woman is born like a woman Eve was. She needs to have the love, the dark side loved out of her. But the trouble is, the man, being born of a woman, does not have Jesus' quality, the authority to be able to help his wife and his children, because he needs the connection that Adam lost, so that made him one of his heavenly children, and tested by the non-heavenly wife. In other words, the wife needs the divine love, not men's need for love from her. Is that clear?
That's it.
Every man looks to the woman to save his soul, to fulfill him, and all he does is draw the worst through the woman, and she hates him for it, or she becomes addicted to it and makes him into a bully, see, or otherwise into a coward, one who tries to buy.
Either way, she judges him.
Ease the waste, and then judges him.
And
for
she
his
feels
failing.
right now.
That's right, and she becomes the man.
She's better than him.
Yes, and that is dangerous.
Destroys the children.
It destroys all the children, and they continue, as I said, from one generation to another, never finding out what's causing war, cruelty, sickness, why the husband is dying from. There's a story that Wendy just told me this morning. She was, if I can remember this, and Wendy, if I make a mistake, would you mind correcting me? Or would you like to say it for yourself?
I don't remember the story.
Oh, it's a story. You said that when you were in the grocery store, this lady had a whole box full of cookies, okay? And she says, why are you buying all these cookies? You have a huge box.
The whole cart was full of
The whole cart was full. She says, for my husband. And the husband is a soldier. an ex-soldier, and a veteran. And she says, but this is going to kill your husband. And she's a sort of a stout lady, a self-satisfied person. And she says, this is for he loves it. She says something like, but you're going to hurt that kid. You're going to hurt your kid. You hurt your husband. And he's going to die from that. And she doesn't give a damn. You understand that? She's just going to give it to him, and he's going to appreciate
everything he wants.
Yes, and kill him.
And judge him while his weakness is filled with all these.
And if I was there, I'd give her what for. See. So here we are. Do you understand? How many people understand the basis of your misery? Because it leads to frustration. It leads you to hate your parents. And pretty soon you find yourself in your parents' shoes with exactly the same problem or opposite. Either being cruel to your children or being too nice to them.
You will hate your parents and rebel against your parents, and as life goes on, at some point you will now worship your parents and honor your parents and dignify their memory as a way to make up for your original hatred of them. And you become your parents.
Yes, you become if you had a bad relationship with your parents, if you're beaten by your father, or your mother sat by and never did anything while you were beating up, you're going to hate both of them, right? And so let us say that the person who's the victim says to herself, now listen to this, every woman says this to herself, nearly everyone. When I grow up, excuse my voice, I'm going to be the bestest mother that ever was, or something like. How many women are talking? How many women in this group can actually hear those words? How many? Oh, how many? One, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, you only got a small audience. It's the same noise. It's the same noise. Where did anyone teach you of that? It's in you. It's in you to lie, to want to do the right thing. Yes, you're a good woman. Do not think that I think that you're bad. You want to be a good woman. I love that. But it doesn't work.
The difference is that when you try to be the bestest mother and it doesn't work, you don't see it. You try harder. That's the mistake.
And then I have women calling me, says, my daughter is 25 and she doesn't want to have anything to do with me. And I say, it's because you're still wanting to mother her. And you don't realize when you're mothering her, you're enslaving her. A person like yourself should set your daughter and your son free so that he doesn't owe you anything except respect, gentle respect. Hello, mother, how are you? But what you're doing is driving your children away. And if you don't drive them away, they become codependent on you and you don't have a life. And you begin to hate your mother. And then you feel guilty about your mother or your father. But let's take the mother for the start. And the more you hate your mother, the more she depends on you loving her. And she gets sicker. And as she gets sicker, you feel guilty and you don't understand it. And you are fixated to go to see your mother in the hospital day after day, week after week, year after year. And she becomes uglier and uglier and more cruel, see. And she's got cancer and you feel guilty about that. How many people in this room? How many? 1, 2, 3. Okay. 3 people. Yes, it's percent, but the game is the same. You see? Exactly I've described it. And you'll give yourself to your dying mother, and you've got to be careful when she suddenly sit up and says, I'm going to kill you. You know, there's going to be a horrible thing that will shock the living daylights out of you. And then she dies. And then you've got her.
Got
Do you understand that that is the story of one person from the beginning to the end? While the other members of the family is run like hell, you're the one that's decided that it's the noble one, so I can take care of my mother and resolve his guilt of hating her. But all she does is, hello, how are you doing, dear? And it makes you feel better. It makes you feel better just for a few minutes, and you go home, but a little piece of you is missing. You see that? Because you did it because you wanted to relieve your hate. Therefore, you changed it into something that calls love. But you're giving your life to her, and she's going to give your death to you.
What I discovered is coming back to what we talked about earlier. I discovered as I went through this whole thing with the meditation and saw myself doing this wrong and that wrong and so forth about the way I was doing it, my approach was, at some point, I reached a place where I could see myself doing this process, making up
with who?
With my mother,
Yeah.
or anyone, with my
mother
mother and my
mostly.
father.
But mostly mother.
What happened is we don't see the anger, we only see the makeup. As you become more conscious of the moment, you not only see the makeup, but you see what's behind the makeup, which is the anger. And you're standing in your anger. And even though you may be making up on the outside, you're conscious.
Towards the mother.
But you're conscious of the anger in you that gave birth to the makeup. And eventually, as long as you can stand in that awareness, God's awareness of what's going on in you, you will eventually be modified. So there's no urge to make up. There's nothing to make up for because you saw your angry nature.
If my wife,
in the moment.
If my wife started to stop dead, I wouldn't have a feeling, because she deserves it. You know me. I'm talking about her. I need to say it in front of everybody. I've been 64 years trying to teach her. She hasn't learned a thing. Now, I still take care of her and love her. Understand that? I know what love is. That makes it worse for her. Because most men don't know what love is. Correct?
They think love
They run
is
away,
something to do,
or they give
but
in.
they think love is either an honor principle or they think it's about the person. Love has nothing to do with the person. Love is something that comes from beyond you, through you.
That's the point. So when I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to you from that state. I can love nobody. Now listen carefully what I mean by this. I cannot love anybody. I am the not originator of love. In other words, I know I'm a machine. Forgive me for saying that. That's as clear as I can make it. And a machine needs roiling. It needs energy, correct? All right. The energy for a human being is that. And that's all, because it removes all sorrow for people. It's to be sorry for them makes you feel good. Or one of those things that makes you feel better than that you've done the right thing. You've been sorry for them and you do things for them that you shouldn't be doing. Or if you have God in you, then you have no feeling. You just do it, the same thing, doing nice things for the person, but no feeling. Nothing being sucked out of you and making her worse. No, it gives us a chance to get better. Do you understand? Because the action is the same. that
It's
you are
the
helped.
energy that it comes from.
But the energy that it comes from, you heard, listen to me, and when you heard me, my voice touched you, correct?
But it
It was the
wasn't
voice.
your. In the beginning, it might have been, but there was some. I can't to this day figure out why I stuck with it, because there was no. I was
No
so
force,
remote.
no force.
What it was there was something in me that's the unverbalized part of us, the part of us that's beyond the mind, was attracted to what you were saying, but not just the words, because I would take the words and start to apply them, and then all of a sudden I would see,
You go
I disagree
crazy
with
then.
you.
Yeah.
I'm disagreeing with you. I would listen to him on the radio in the 60s and late 60s and 70s, and I scheduled my classes at school so I'd be free in his hour radio show. So I'd be sitting in my car eating my lunch, listening to his radio, and somebody would call, and they'd have this problem, and I'm thinking, oh, Roy's going to say da 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 da. You didn't say that. You said the opposite. And then somebody else calls it, oh, Roy's going to give this person a real hard time, and you're as kind and gentle as can be. And I realized, wait a minute, either he's crazy or I don't see where he's coming from. There's something in me that's all mixed up because I have it in my head, but there's some other chemistry in this. And
But
I knew
the
there was
person got
something.
well. The person got well.
Well, yeah, it seemed that when in the end, what happened was oftentimes the guy I thought you should tell off, you don't tell off, you're treating him very gentle, and in the end they have a catharsis and a realization. And I realized, well, wait a minute, how did he know that? Because they fit perfectly into the mold where he'd say, oh, you're all wrong, but he didn't do that. I saw there was a mystery there I was missing. And I realized right away that I wasn't going to trust my mind anymore as far as the foundations
You
teachings
cannot
go.
trust your mind.
I don't trust my mind. I don't disbelieve it, but I don't believe it.
You cannot trust your thoughts. Your thoughts are not you. And the excuses you make are not you. Johnny made me do it. In Japanese, it would be, that means Johnny made me do it.
But we think it's us talking to us.
That's right.
It's not us. There's other things at work here.
So that's beginning. When you come into the world comes into you. Here's the difference from Adam. You come into the world from a woman. For a man is a failing man. And the failing man emboldens the hatred towards her husband. Or she loved the feeling, and therefore, because she loved the feeling of being loved, which isn't love, she will give him what she wants. And so they can have as much sex as what they want.
Or food.
Or food. See, and that's that lady
Or-
with the
or-
box of food.
The house is all clean just right the way he wants, or messy just the way he wants.
Let's see. And so, the origin of your suffering is the failing of your parents. Every single freaking one of you. And so, if you're here with your children, I'd have to say the same thing in front of them. When a man, I remember the first time I did it. I'm in Los Angeles a long time ago. It's 40 years ago. A man and a woman brought the kid into my office, and he was not manageable. And the first thing I did, I say, young man, I'm not going to tell you that you are wrong. You are a strong, healthy young man. I'll tell you who is wrong. It's your parents. Your parents don't know how to deal with you. Now you just watch me. He felt better already. Then I told the parents off. No, I don't know what I did, because they could have done and killed him. But it needed to be done. I said, you did this and you did this, what we were talking about. But I relieved him of the guilt to some degree. Now, whatever happened afterwards, I did my thing. And I never heard from them after that. But it has to be told. The story have to be told. Women, ladies, you cannot bring up a male child. Neither can you bring up a female child without reproducing what you are and what you were born with. I remember many times people calling me, lady calling me, "Oh, Mom, I'm all alone. My daughter, how many daughters you got?" "I got 3 daughters. They don't want to talk to me." I said, "No wonder. You want their love. You want to suck on them." Because when a person, a man, anybody wants love, it's something's missing. But you can't get it from the woman, and you can't get it from the man. All you can do is see how stupid it is and what's missing there, and hate him for not being able to help her. See that? So, what's necessary is that men, born of woman, understand. Do not look at the bitch, excuse the expression, the son of a bitch, looking at the bitch itself, and look at her as love. Look to her to get love, and the more she gives love, the less of a man he becomes. And the less of a man he becomes, the more hungry he is for love. And the love is a feeling. Love is a feeling, and it goes away and leaves you with anxiety, more than you had before. Now listen carefully about ISIS. If you want to understand ISIS, they have learned, they have discovered to imprison a couple of women and make laws that they do what the master says or they die. That's the basic is. And they got nothing else. They got all the laws are for the men. And they think that's the result. It is not the answer. The answer is good men. The answer is men that have intuitiveness back again. And that which is the authority that women need. You can't have just the man. You have to have the God in the man that saved the man from the woman. But that's all invisible. And so when I talk to my wife, when I say, "Get up, please," and she does, I say, "Get up, please." See, don't you disagree with me. I have a reason for that, whatever. I just made that up. See, she's got to do it. But I'm not going to be unreasonable.
But all those women in the audience around the world who hear Roy saying that and all of a sudden feel anger at him because of the tone of his voice, if he's wrong, why be angry at him? What did that trigger in you? And why are you angry at him? If he's wrong, he's just a guy who's wrong. Why would you be angry? It triggers something in you, and you need to look at that in the moment.
But the anger would kill you.
The anger will kill you.
What is coming out of my mouth, and I'm making it strong. I'm not going to do it appeasing. You women need to understand that you should be very careful of the man you marry, unless you have the grace of God, which is givable to the woman without the man. A woman can find, if you have no husband and he's dead, or you have no husband, don't moan, don't get upset, don't feel dirty because you are old and nobody wants you anymore, etc., etc. I don't mean to be rude. What you need to be is get rid of all the anger. Get rid of the fact that you were married and he used you. And getting understanding that you caused it to happen, but you didn't want to believe that you did it. But you couldn't help but do it. You couldn't help but rise to the occasion of the man's need. Otherwise, why would the man marry you? That's it. So no matter how beautiful the man is, if you have not intuition, which would keep you from marriage, and wait for the right one to come. But the hunger for love is so important because you've been destroyed by your parents and you've lost what love is. And you're looking for someone to love the hell out of you, and what they do is continue to love the heaven out of you.
And this is the voice crying in the wilderness, because any movie, any TV show you look at, they tell you the answer to life is to find true love and to find your loving mate. And everywhere you go, everyone is telling you this is all you have to do is find the right one to love. And it's a lie. Because that's what will keep you.
It's rare.
Well, what we'll find, the real love is the mate who pushes you to find the real meaning of life, which is the love of the Father coming through you, which causes a part of yourself to be humiliated inside of you. That part that you think is you and the strength of you, that ego nature, that has to stand in the presence of the Father's light, which will humiliate that part of you. The funny thing is that if you do it the way it's meant to happen, you won't feel humiliated, you won't feel weak, you won't feel strong, you won't feel anything, but you'll see the effects as you begin living your life. It affects people in ways you cannot even imagine. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you don't see it, doesn't matter.
But everything you've said is the beginning of the life of every person. And so nobody escapes it. We all get married, and it gets screwed. It really falls apart. And very few people hold together, but they hold together with hatred. See? In other words, what else can they do? Go ahead.
That's how my son.
Do you have a phone?
Do you want to speak?
Yes, that'd be nice.
That's how my son feels about me and my husband.
All right.
He's always felt like
Who's he?
Christopher
Yeah.
Ortiz, right there. He's always felt like my husband and I didn't like each other.
Well, you probably didn't.
No, we didn't, no, especially towards the end. You know, because my husband passed away. You know Carlos.
I don't know who he is.
Carlos Ortiz.
We do know him, Ron.
You came down to the seminars. We had seminars with you down in Vegas.
I just recognize. Oh,
Carlos.
it's you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you were the wife.
Yes.
Yes, and he was very generous to me. I get it. It's been such a long time. Please forgive me. Okay.
So, I don't even know why I'm crying. I've had a pretty good hold of this for a long time.
But how does it help you? You're a typical idiot.
Yeah, I know that.
You're a typical idiot because it's all. How can you, who never made you, fix you?
I can't. No,
Well,
I
that's
can't
it.
fix my kids.
Well, why
I
don't you
can't
knock it
fix-
off? Why don't you stop?
Actually, I have. I've made distance with that, and I've been much more calm with my kids.
Well, no.
I'm not involved
I
in
don't like
myself
the
and
words.
telling them.
I don't like as much as you can. No. Knock off. Now let me say it how I first did it. And you've heard this before last week, but this week doesn't hurt either. I'm 8 years old, and there's lots of interesting things happened before that. But let's get to this one. So because it's something similar to yours. I'm playing with my son Arnold. You've heard it before, but you may not have heard it. And he said something really mean. And I have never experienced emotion. In those 8 years, I was free. My father loved me. And he watched me, and the watching and the example made me pure. See that?